Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Waterville Planning Board meeting. We're going to get started here. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was February 24th.
I'll make the motion to approve.
All right.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Item number 2, disclosure of conflict of interest. Does anyone have any conflict that they need to disclose before we move on? Okay. Item number 3, this is something that I asked to have put on the agenda. I wanted to discuss the possibility of changing our start time for future meetings to 6 p.m. I would prefer it, so I asked for it to get put on the agenda. So I'll just open it up for any discussion. Does anyone, would that be a conflict for anybody?
No conflict. Works for me.
Fantastic. Well, I will entertain a motion to approve that.
So moved.
All right,
Second.
great. All those in favor? And then I believe our next meeting will be May 26th?
Yes.
At 6 p.m.
Yes.
Fantastic. All right, item number 4. SDG Investors LLC is requesting informal pre-application review for a 3-unit apartment building at 3 Crawford Street. This review is in accordance with Article 4 of the subdivision ordinance. Jeff?
Good evening. Jeff Allen from AE Hudson Engineers in Waterville. So this is a small parcel, about 2/3 of an acre, and this is a preliminary meeting for this. So there's going to be no approval. But it's about 2/3 of an acre. There is an existing home on the site now. The owner wishes to add a new triplex building, which is this area here, that'll have parking for both the triplex here and a couple of spaces for the existing home that's on the property now. It's kind of wedged in here. There's quite a hill in behind it, and so we've had to wedge it all in. It seems to work well. There's city water, city sewer, nothing really extraordinary. The only thing with the triplex, it has to be a firewall between one of the units, because no more than 2 units can be together. But that's the whole deal.
Okay.
So just wanted to see if you had any feedback that we need to look at. I've talked to most of the review agencies, and they're all set with it. Still haven't heard from the fire department, but I need to check with them before the May meeting on the 26th at 6.
Okay, great. Any questions from anybody on the board?
Jeff,
Yeah.
are the 3 units, are they 3 2-story units side by side? How is it divided up?
It's single-story units, 3 single-story
Stories,
units.
okay.
So it's, smaller apartments, but
Is there going to be a dumpster?
no, we're just going to do the purple bags
Yep.
that we all do here in town.
Yep. Any other questions, concerns? No?
Is it just the slope in the back? Is no retaining wall, or?
No, we've been able to grade it back, so it's just, it may be ledge, because there is some areas of ledge outcropping. So I think we can, stabilize it well enough without using retaining wall.
Okay. Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Not seeing anybody? All right.
Okay.
Great.
All right, see you in a month.
Thank you. Item number 5, Devon Hall is requesting approval to reopen an automotive repair shop at 25 Elm Street. This review is in accordance with Section 4.6 Automobile Businesses of the zoning ordinance. This is an item that we will vote on. There's a findings and facts that we'll go through when we're done.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
So as you guys know, I've been working on getting the garage open on the left side of the picture. The middle building, that's all basically taken care of, and the laundromat should be open in about a month or so there. On the garage side, I've had sewer district, water district, fire department, and the city engineer approve everything. The only thing I have to add is a fire lane in between the two, so I'll remove the two spots in between the building and add a fire lane for fire trucks. That's the only thing that's changing with the property. Everything else is gonna stay the same as it's been for a long time. That's about it. And then just having it changed to commercial B.
It was recently rezoned. What was it? Was it rezoned to?
So it's rezoned to, I think, commercial B, right?
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, before
So
it was
that's all
commercial
set.
A. Yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. And that is one of the conditions in the findings and facts with the fire lane.
Yep.
So, okay. Any questions from anyone?
I have a couple of questions about the layout because I was trying to parse out your sketch, but it wasn't exactly clear to me what's going on, especially in the front. So there's a 20-foot fire lane that comes in off of Western and then goes around the building and out to Elm.
Correct.
I get that. And is there another fire lane in the front? Like, I couldn't tell if what's going to happen with those parking spaces there that are in front of the building so close to the street. Is that going to be a fire lane also?
How about this? Or
Well, against the building, and then, yeah, there's just a few feet from those spaces to what would be aligned with the sidewalk, and then,
For what we're gonna do for here, we're gonna turn these two spots into diagonal, so people can park there more than the employees most likely. These spots will stay all the same as is, and there is enough backout room as well to be able to pull out on the main street. The parking spots, these three here, will be removed, and I'll create the fire lane that'll come through here and wrap behind the back of the building.
okay.
Nothing else is changing with the lines or parking.
Oh, okay, because I saw something about a stripe to make it clear that that side of the road of Elm Street was one lane, that there was going to be a stripe, which gives kind of like a little extra backup room, I guess, to the vehicles coming out of those parking spaces. I was just trying to figure out how all that worked, because it's a bit awkward and tight, so.
It is a bit awkward, I do agree. Once you're there, there's a lot more room than you would think. Me and all the workers back out every day with no issues. If that is something that the board does want me to add, like a line more out to kind of separate it, I don't mind have that done. I'm having all the lines repainted and all done as well anyway.
Yeah. Maybe the part I read about the line in the road to demarcate the lane in the road going, maybe that's,
Yeah,
maybe the
that could
city
work
is,
too, 'cause
the
where-
city is doing that.
I would say, yeah, because where the parking spot is on the bottom left, where it's on the street side,
Yeah.
all the way down, no one can legally drive on that area anyway.
Yeah.
So if there was a line there or something, that also might help distinguish people from being too far over that way. If that's something the town does, great. If it's something I have to do, I don't mind doing that as well.
Yeah, okay, thank you. I
yeah.
just wanted to clarify that, because it's
No, I do
mysterious to
understand
me.
that, yeah.
I mean, that building is a neighbor to my law office, has
Yes.
been for over 40 years, and when it was Universal Tire. And in the 40 years that I've been there, I've never experienced any issues with you folks, and I welcome you back.
Perfect. I appreciate that a lot. It's been a long year, but we're finally coming to the end of it, it looks like. So everything should be all open
Good luck.
soon. Thank you so much. I'm hoping that this brings a lot of business to the community as well, being that, and then the laundromat, and the other half is a salon as well. And then there's another room in there for behavioral health as well. So I'm trying to add a little bit of everything.
Yep. Anyone else from the board? Anyone from the public would like to speak on this? Okay, we can move on to the findings and facts. So I'm going to read through these. Each one is either true or false. So, number one, the development will not result in undue water or air pollution on or off-site.
True.
Sufficient water is available for the reasonable foreseeable needs of the development, including but not limited to potable water and fire control water.
True.
Number three, the development will not cause unreasonable soil erosion or reduction in the capacity of the land to hold water.
True.
The development will not cause unreasonable highway or public road congestion or unsafe conditions with respect to use of the highways or public roads existing or proposed, both on and off-site.
True.
The development will provide for adequate solid waste disposal.
True.
The development will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of sewage.
True.
The development will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area, aesthetics, historic sites, or rare and irreplaceable natural areas, or any public rights for physical or visual access to shoreline.
True.
The development is in conformance with zoning.
True.
The developer has adequate financial and technical capacity to meet the above stated standards.
True.
And then there are some conditions for water, the fire lane, and then some additional conditions from the fire department, which you've already been presented with.
Yep.
So as long as you accept those as they are there any other conditions that the board would like to amend to this at this time? No? Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the findings and facts.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor? All right. Thank you, Devin.
Thank you so much, everybody.
All right, the next item, Camber Development is requesting informal pre-application review for a 159,000 square foot Amazon distribution center to be constructed at 301 Junction Road. This review is in accordance with Article 4 of the Site Plan Review and Subdivision Ordinance. And before we get going, I do have something that I'd like to address. So just for everybody that's here, so this type of review is advisory only. No approvals are granted, no decisions are made, no findings of facts like we just went through are issued, and no votes are going to be taken as part of an Article 4 review. The purpose of this discussion is to allow the applicant to receive general guidance from the planning board and staff on ordinance requirements, potential issues, and the type of information that may be required in a formal application if a formal application is submitted in the future. Because this is not a formal review, the planning board is not evaluating whether the project should be approved or denied, and tonight's discussion does not bind the board in any way should the project return for a public hearing. State law requires the planning board's decision to be based on a formal application in a public hearing, and that process is not happening tonight. Because of all of that, I'd like to remind anyone wishing to speak during public comment that their input is most helpful when it identifies potential issues for the applicant rather than advocating for or against the project. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Johnson, members of the planning board. The timing was perfect because our AV wasn't set up and it finished right on time.
Fantastic.
So thank you. My name is Adam Cody. I'm an attorney at Drummond Woodsum. I'm here on behalf of the developers, Camber Development, Amazon, VHB, who's working on our permitting. We have a presentation planned for tonight to go over the project and discuss the project. We had actually our first public introduction to this project here about a month ago with respect to the public notification of the DEP permit. And we had the same folks. We had the folks, Tucker Kelton and Brandon Nelson from Camber speaking. I was here, Sean Hale from VHB as well. But we got a lot of questions. There was, I think, less interest in the actual warehouse that we were building and much more in the occupant, Amazon. So we received a lot of questions that night, and we relayed that to Amazon, that there was a lot of interest in this project, what Amazon had in store, why they were interested in Waterville. So we called Amazon. We're working with their head of economic development, Jonathan Greeley. He's in charge of all of New England, Virginia, some other states. And I said, would you be willing to come up and sort of brief people? And I recognize that's a little unorthodox, but I think it would probably be appropriate if you'd be fine with it. Jonathan is, and Amazon generally is not involved in building the buildings. They're very good at delivering packages, but they usually hire Camber to build them. But Jonathan wanted to come up and sort of talk about what Amazon has planned for this project. So Jonathan, if you don't mind coming up and briefing everybody, appreciate it.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jonathan Greeley. I lead economic development for Amazon in New England. I'm based in Boston. Thanks for having me to the planning board, and for stakeholders here tonight, thanks for coming. We're excited to be here. The proposal you're going to see tonight is part of a larger effort that Amazon announced like 10 months ago, last year, a $4 billion investment across the country in building out our last mile network. The goal being that we want to make sure that the same Amazon quality of service that you get in maybe a large metropolitan area, you get in small cities and towns across the country. The focus, as a result, is really on thinking about delivery speeds. It's thinking about product availability, and it's thinking about the kind of making sure there's a high quality of service for our customers, of which there are many throughout the country and right here in Maine. The idea being that if we control the entire flow of an item making its way from a warehouse to your front door, overall, it's just a better quality of service, and that's something we want to make sure we give our customers. Today, the overwhelming majority of packages that are delivered from Amazon in Maine go through third parties. That's not going to change. We will continue to partner with both FedEx and USPS. We actually just signed a new contract with USPS in recent months. But the goal here is to think about how do we continue to iterate on behalf of our customers with an eye towards the future in terms of kind of our growth and anticipated needs of our customers in Maine. Just a bit about what you're going to see about this facility. It's a last mile facility. I'll let the team get into the details. But more or less that means that everything that makes its way into Maine starts at a warehouse in either Massachusetts, Rhode Island, or Connecticut, and makes its way either directly to here or through a sortation facility. Should also note for the first time, there are customers in Maine getting packages from a facility in Maine. We had the great fortune of opening a building in Caribou, Maine last fall. And so we've been running a last mile facility in Maine for the last 6-7 months. And certainly have several of those planned that have been widely reported on. Happy to talk about that at any point in time. I should also note that 60% of items that are sold by Amazon are actually from small and medium-sized businesses across the country. And I'd also note that our customers are not just households, but businesses throughout the country and in Maine. So why Waterville? I always say when we select a site and look to invest, it's a three-legged stool. It's can the land, the building, the dirt do what we need it to do? And quite frankly, this site has been, I think, queued up by the city for this kind of development, and so we're thrilled to kind of match that that opportunity with our investment. It's the talent. Can we find the people to make whatever we're building run really well? And most importantly, all of you. It's the partnership. Who's on the other side of the table? And so we certainly expect a robust review and discussion of this proposal, both at the local and state level. But ultimately, we're looking to find partners to kind of think about how we grow and evolve over time. And to date, we've had a really productive conversation with leaders here in Waterville and look forward to doing that with all of you and everybody here gathered tonight. I'll be here for the rest of the meeting, looking forward to answering any questions, comments, concerns, happy to talk about it. But I think for now, the best thing we can do is get into the details and let our project team kind of walk through it. And I look forward to having the conversation throughout the evening. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tucker Kelton with Camera Development. I'm the founder of Camera Development. We started the business 6 years ago, and we're an industrial developer based in Boston. We have a history with Amazon. Worked with them on several projects, including building a large facility for them in Wilmington, Massachusetts. Have built up a good relationship with them, and they've hired us to build them their facility here in Waterville. We're Boston-based, but we have strong Maine ties. I grew up in Yarmouth. Brandon, who leads our development vertical, married a girl from Scarborough, and I went to Colby, third generation Colby, and stay involved at Colby through the Board of Visitors. So little bit of a, I don't want to say we're coming from the outside, but also don't want to pretend like we're here and we know everything about your town, but certainly have an affinity for Waterville. And I personally am happy to be here helping to deliver what we think is a real positive project for the town from an economic standpoint. And I think importantly, and this was important for us before we engaged with Amazon on the project, the site is located in an area that is a positive for the community. It was in an area that was permitted or kind of created, new intersection put in for exactly this type of use to spur economic developments, to bring jobs and other economic benefit. So that's really important to us. There's an impact on every project on a community, but our hope and belief is that there's minimal impact on the neighbors in the community, given where this is sited right on the highway. So here on this slide, just highlighting a couple things about the project that we feel are really positive and we hope is viewed positively from the town and the board's perspective as well, is alignment with the Trafton Road corridor vision. Job creation, we said it in our prior meeting, but just to reiterate, we are projecting that this project will bring 150 to 200 full-time and part-time jobs to the area. Obviously with a facility of this size, which is a pretty large project, comes with a sizable investment in commercial property and in the equipment in the facility, which will increase municipal tax revenues. Some local infrastructure enhancements, relating public water and power lines, and limited environmental impact. And something which also was important to us and viewed as hopefully positive to the community is that the project that we're designing is by right and zoning compliant with all the in-place zoning. And we're not here seeking variances or abatements or relief of any kind. So appreciate you all entertaining our presentation here and happy to answer questions later. And now I'll turn it over to Sean Hale from VHB.
Hi, I'm Sean Hale from VHB, and as referenced earlier, we're the firm hired to do the environmental permitting, the engineering, and kind of support development of the project. So first thing I'll talk about is the permitting process, since that's what we're doing on behalf of Amazon. I think folks are probably familiar with these various processes, but I'll go over it real quick. We have a site plan review that we need to do here, and we're starting right now with the City of Waterville. We need to go through a parallel process with the town of Sydney. We've been in initial discussions with Sydney, but we haven't filed an application with them yet. Excuse me. I anticipate we'll be doing that over the next month or so. We have wetlands-related permitting under the Natural Resources Protection Act and the Site Location of Development Act with DEP. We filed those applications actually just this past Friday. So the SILA application is in, the NERPA application is in. We'll be turning to the application with the Corps of Engineers next, and I think folks may be aware that is necessitated by the amount of wetland impact on the property. A DOT permit is in process, traffic movement permit, that has been filed, and we're basically in that process with DOT now. And my understanding is there'll be a one of the next steps is a public meeting that will be coming it will happen in the coming weeks, and we have folks that can talk more about that later. I'm not a traffic person. And the last thing is just building permits with the city and the town when the time comes. Those are still a ways off. This slide's just an overview of the site if folks, aren't already aware or haven't been by it. It's a large open field in its current condition. You can see here easily the proximity to the highway and the on and off ramp to I-95. It's literally at just a couple hundred feet from the exit ramp and the on-ramp to the highway, which is, as people are, you're going to be hearing a lot, which is what makes it such a good location for this project. We've already spoken about the zoning, but it meets all the local zoning requirements, and yeah, it's an existing agricultural field and it's been in this type of land use for many, many years. I've gone back through the historical records and the aerial photos, and it's been a field as far back as that data exists. This is just to give folks an idea of what the site looks like. Nothing too surprising here. It's a large grassed field. This shows the unpaved Junction Road looking north. You can see in the photo to the right, you can actually see the on-ramp to the highway in the distance there. It's just kind of highlighting the proximity to the highway. So this is an overview of the proposed facility. Hopefully folks can get I know it's not super detailed from this vantage point, but hopefully you can get a sense of the large building in the center north portion of the site and the associated parking areas around it. It's a large project, but it's a fairly straightforward project in terms of what's being constructed. It's a building and parking, the access ways in, and some stormwater management features that really kind of encapsulates what the project is about. And this zoning table just summarizes that the project is able to meet or exceed all the required setbacks and associated offsets to property lines and frontage and those types of items. Utilities, Tucker made reference to this a little bit earlier. We're bringing in water, Kennebec Water District. We're already in consultation with them, and they have provided a letter of ability to serve for the water supply. So that agreement is already in place. It will require extending the existing water main in a westerly direction along Trafton Road for about 3,000 feet. So that is part of will be done kind of, I would say in parallel to the development of the site. Same thing for electricity. We've had discussions with CMP. There's existing power on Trafton Road. We'll have to bring it into the site, as is not surprising for a project like this. Wastewater will be an on-site wastewater system, and that design is in process. We have filed, as I mentioned, our application with DEP, and one of the sections of the site law application is the wastewater section, demonstrating that we will be in compliance with DEP's wastewater requirements. And there is also, as part of the application that will go to you folks, the city of Waterville, there'll be a section on wastewater there. And that's what the green area on that photo is showing. That's where the wastewater leach field is proposed to be. Natural gas will come in off of Trafton Road. That is existing. We just need to connect to it. And various typical telecommunications will be brought in as well. So nothing too surprising there. I'm not a stormwater engineer, but I know a little bit about stormwater and can speak to this in a general way. You'll obviously be getting a much more detailed application, but there is a fair amount of impervious surface proposed, obviously associated with the building and a large parking area. So to handle that stormwater runoff, it's a proposed system of subsurface infiltration basins, which are the blue areas you see on this photo, and then one surface detention basin at the south perimeter of the site. So stormwater will be collected in gutters and catch basins directed to the subsurface systems for treatment and infiltration, and anything that needs to overflow will be directed to various outflows. I think there's 2 at the south end of the site and 2 at the north end of the site. The bullets here just describe how we'll comply with DEP's standards, basic general flooding standards. The site is not in a flood zone, so flooding is not really a concern at this location. Yeah, and I can say that we had multiple pre-applications with DEP as well and met with their stormwater engineers, and they gave our design team some pretty good guidance on how to comply with DEP's regulations and kind of manage the stormwater at the site. For a large site like this, it's a challenging process, but we feel like we've got a design that's going to work well. Environmental considerations, this is a little bit more in my wheelhouse. I'm the guy who goes out and delineates wetlands and works with DEP. Although it is a field, there are wetlands present in the field. And you can kind of see on this photo the areas in yellow underlying the proposed development are the wetland boundaries. We did do a site visit with the Army Corps of Engineers in the last couple of weeks and had that wetland delineation reviewed and made some fairly minor changes to that delineation as a result of input from the Corps. So it was good to get through that process with them. So what you're seeing on this photo is the final wetland delineation. I made reference to this earlier, but we've had multiple pre-application meetings. We had a preliminary meeting with DEP, then we did have the formal pre-application meeting with DEP, which was required under the site law process, and the Corps of Engineers actually was present at both of those meetings as well. We had the public information meeting as required under site law in this room a few weeks ago, which folks have talked about was well attended, and we got a lot of feedback from the public at that meeting. On an aside, DEP waived the pre-submission meeting, which is very common for site law applications. We filed the application just this past Friday for under site law in NERPA. So the application is now in DEP's hands. Made reference to the amount of wetlands. It's about 2.67 acres of wetland impact in total. And we'll be working with DEP and the Corps on a mitigation process for that, which is anticipated to be an in lieu fee payment, but until DEP and the Corps agree with that, it's still a question that needs to get resolved. One positive about the project and the environmental design is that, Amazon and the project team really wanted to use the existing open cleared field to the maximum extent possible, right? It's already cleared, it's already level, no tree clearing required. So it makes sense from a constructability standpoint, and it just makes sense from an environmental standpoint to not have to go into, disturbed areas or more valuable habitats. And at this site, the larger site is about 45 acres. The development area is about 27. And we specifically avoided, there's a stream in the northeast corner of the site, which you can see, I know it's kind of blurry on this photo, but that northeast corner comes in the stream comes in from under Trafton Road. There's a pretty large box culvert there, and it flows off-site in a southeasterly direction. And there are WAS wetlands associated with that system, wetlands of special significance as defined by DEP, and we managed to completely avoid that area and completely avoid any impacts to WAS wetlands, which was something DEP was encouraging us to do, and happy that we were able to accomplish that. Similarly, at the south end of the site, there's a large stream system and associated wetlands that we have also managed to completely avoid impacting. So in terms of the more sensitive habitats on the site with regard to aquatic resources, wetland resources, they really are those two stream systems and the associated wetlands, and we've managed to avoid them entirely. So that was a major win from an environmental standpoint in terms of the design. And the last bullet just makes reference to that we did complete a noise study. That's required under site law. It's required under your regulations. And that has been submitted to DEP and will be submitted to you folks as well as part of the site plan review application. We're getting to the end. This is the landscape design. It's a large field, so there's not a lot of existing trees to save or retain as part of the project design. You can see existing trees in green. The solid green on this graphic is where existing forested cover are. There is a patch along Trafton Road at the north end, but it's mostly open and visible from Trafton Road. The same along Junction Road. There's really no trees along Junction Road at this time. So what we're proposing are some pretty extensive tree plantings at the corner of Trafton and Junction, along Junction, and then also within the interior of the site on the west boundary of the larger parking lot. That whole area is going to be planted with trees, a mix of deciduous, coniferous trees, native plantings, underlain by a herbaceous seed mix of native plantings. So I think that's going to be a very significant part of the design in terms of buffering, visual impacts, and noise impacts. Maybe to some degree it can help in that regard as well. So that's an overview of what you're going to see when we submit the application. And lastly is traffic, and I am not a traffic expert, but we did bring our traffic person. Where is Jason? There he is. Yeah, please, if you don't mind. And then I'll take it after this slide back.
Thank you. My name is Jason Reddy. I'm the traffic team lead with VHB, and just wanted to go over this slide. I think a lot of this has been outlined so far on the environmental side. So for the traffic side, John mentioned that we're currently working with Maine DOT and have filed a traffic movement permit with them. Just kind of going over the overview here, and I know that there's been some past concern, but because of the site location and its proximity to the interchange, a lot of the perceived traffic considerations are going to be handled by all the traffic mainly using that interchange. When we take a look at our traffic distribution and where that goes in direction, we did that using like a regional model, which takes into consideration the population density in the area and where people would be coming from. And based off from that, the traffic is going to be utilizing that exit, and even what we have is probably conservative for the remainder that might use the local network. And by local, I mean either end of Trafton Road. There isn't really any anticipation of Junction Road and 8 Rod Road being utilized, and I guess in the an instance where maybe a customer is up one of those roads for one of those van deliveries. For the remainder of it, just kind of going down through the list. The other concern is the truck traffic. Just based off from the previous comments, is that this is a last mile facility, and these truck trips are coming from the Massachusetts, Connecticut type facilities, and they're coming here. But it's limited number of trips, and they won't be hanging around or anything. They'll make their delivery and then return. But all of these trips. Or rather, to that point, we're not expecting them to use the local network at all, because they're coming from out of state and are just using the interstate in order to make their delivery. I'll just kind of keep going here. One of the things that as we work through our traffic movement permit is just the examining the expected level of delay and level of service that would be present, both, before and after this development would be proposed to go in. And based off from our traffic modeling and using local traffic counts, we're not anticipating any sort of impact to the local network. This is operating presently at level of service A, very little or no delay. That's probably tracks is just it's just a little used road, but built for this, and so with all of that capacity, everything that we bring here isn't expected to provide any significant impact to that. I think that pretty much covers everything, unless there was something more specific. But otherwise, we'll be working with Maine DOT and through their traffic movement permit process and an upcoming scoping meeting for approval.
Thanks, Jason. And we're just about wrapped up here. we just had a few slides at the end, just to, renderings of what the building might look like, to give folks a general idea. Fairly straightforward design, not a lot of surprises, I guess, in what a warehouse, facility would look like. Here's from the back side where the unloading and loading would occur. And that's it.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Sure.
I saw out of the corner of my eyes a lot of writing. I was also jotting down a bunch of notes, so I assuming that there's a few questions from people on the board. So anyone want to get started with questions?
I don't particularly have any questions, just some comments. Not in favor of or against the project, that's for another time. I believe Jonathan mentioned that the city at some point sort of queued that area up for where we are today. I'm intimately aware of when the city queued it up. I was the mayor in '86 and '87, and I worked with the council. I worked with the commissioner of the Department of Transportation, Dana Connors, at the time. Probably all of you have no idea who he is, just a great guy from Aroostook County. I met with the owners of the property at that time. I traveled to Rhode Island on at least 3 occasions with a member of the Chamber of Commerce and spoke with Mr. Pantelikas. He's the fellow that bought the property, and also the woolen mill that was there. The state of Maine was convinced right from the get-go. It was just an absolute a gem of an area to put the exit 124. And the council also made some changes as to the zoning. So even though there was some very heated discussion at the time to get this thing moving, it wasn't until, believe it or not, July 14th of 2017 that the project started. The shovel was in the ground to start the exit 124. So, and then 11 years from that date, but 40 years from when we started, that was, the intent was to draw some interest, in commercial, industrial, something out there. That's what it was there for. That's what the city planned for that. Not necessarily this project, but something. And then for the life of me, I couldn't believe that it was going to take 40-something years. But you folks are asking for something that folks 40 years ago believed should happen here at that location. So let's just give you some background and some perspective. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Anyone else? I do have some questions. Is the plan to have the entire area fenced?
No, there will not be perimeter fencing around the site. There will be fencing adjacent to the streams in order to keep people away from the stream areas, but there will not be perimeter fencing along, Junction or Traffic outside of the stream area.
And fencing around the surface treatment area, and if you're going to be answering most of the questions, if you wouldn't mind standing up, this is all broadcast and recorded and stuff, so.
I can answer some of them.
Fencing around the surface treatment pool, the water area that's on the south, that would be fenced?
I believe we have fencing there, right?
I didn't think so, but sorry. We can
So,
get back to you on that.
Technically,
we can-
it's in Sydney, so I don't know if we have the ability to say we want to fence around that, but typically we would say we want to fence around that.
I know that there's fencing around that southern parking area. I would
Yeah.
assume it goes around the detention pond, but we can follow up on that.
Okay. And I will make a comment around the deciduous trees that you may plant. Avoid oak.
Okay, noted.
So
Any particular type of oak or just oak in general?
any oak that brown tail moth like.
Okay.
So, we had an infestation not too long ago, and they could be back, and they eat a lot of oak, and they're not nice to have around. So, yeah, I would avoid oak. Is there any abnormal use of water? I mean, it's bathrooms and like kitchens for employees and stuff.
No, typical water usage.
Yeah. Any plan to put solar on the roof?
Not in the base program, but the roof will be designed per state codes and everything, and have the structural capacity for future solar.
Yep. And then I'm just curious, and since you guys are here, what's the radius for delivery out of your last mile? 'Cause I'm assuming it's last miles.
I'm going to defer to Jonathan on that one.
I'll get you a more specific answer during the presentation, but generally, drivers who leave here, hour drive radius, give or take.
Yeah.
I would just say is that it's a little chicken or the egg, because some of it will be based on our network and our customer locations when the building opens a year plus from now, right?
Yeah.
But what drivers will do is they have a 10-hour route, and they will drive an hour or so, up to an hour or so from here, do that route, and then return to the facility.
Got it. Cool. What's the typical length of construction for a project like this? Like when you start?
Yeah, probably, it depends on when you start and how the winter goes, but typically around 12 months.
Okay. I think that's it for me. Anybody else from the board? Nobody? I'll open it up for any public comments or questions. No? Not hearing any? Great. Oh,
You got okay? You got a couple of sheets, is that all right? But I condensed it to one index card. Bruce White, Ward 7. Sat in that seat a few times, and I appreciate all you guys do. I'd just like to point out, whether it's relevant or not, you can decide, but Mr. Nail mentioned, but Wyandotte was there a number of years ago, and it was operated as a textile mill, correct? So, I think this is a lot more environmentally friendly. Also, I worked at Scott Paper Company, Kimberly-Clark. It's no longer there, right? 1998, they closed that mill. At one time, there were 1,000 people. It was down to probably 400. So we've lost a lot of jobs. That's my point there. Hathaway, right? Now it's apartments, which is great use. That had hundreds of people. We don't have those jobs. They were good jobs, good benefits. Many generations worked there. Appreciate the fact, I know when I sat in that seat and heard companies come in that you didn't have to change the zoning, that was kind of a big deal. Makes it a little easier for what you do. And that's great because of the location. Certainly good job opportunities with this company. They've been around. So good benefit package. I think it's needed in this area. Obviously, the tax benefit to our community. We can use it. Again, environmentally friendly. I appreciated hearing about the 60% local. I'm a advocate of our local businesses, and that was great to hear that. So really, I just wanted to point those things out and just say thank you, and I think would be wonderful. One other thing, I looked up today. I knew they were a good company that encourages their employees to volunteer, and I know many of us in this room volunteer. I work over at the AYCC. We're always looking for volunteers. I could see people from Amazon coming over to volunteer at the AYCC or at the Waterville Area Soup Kitchen. the Winslow Community Cupboard, so many places, and there's always a big need. Also, part of their, they do a lot of grants for nonprofits. That's huge. You know, we all like grants, and it'll be a big boom for these nonprofits. So just my advocacy for the project. Thank you.
Thanks, Bruce. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much, and we hope to see you guys in the future. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Thanks, everyone.